7+ deep lessons from the book, 5 types of people who can ruin your life. Number 1. The 5 types of people who can ruin your life in the order of the real-life examples are 1. Narcissistic, high-conflict personalities, HCPs. They often seem very charming at first, but believe they are hugely superior to others. They insult, humiliate, mislead, and lack empathy for their targets of blame. They also demand constant undeserved respect and attention from everyone. 2. Borderline high-conflict personalities, HCPs. They often start out extremely friendly, but they can suddenly and unpredictably shift into being extremely angry. When this shift occurs, they may seek revenge for minor or non-existent slights. They may launch vicious attacks against their targets of blame that involve physical violence, verbal abuse, legal action, or attempts to destroy their targets' reputations. 3. Antisocial or sociopathic HCPs. They can be extremely charismatic, but their charm is a cover for their drive to dominate others through lying, stealing, publicly humiliating people, physically injuring them, and, in extreme cases, murdering them. Antisocial HCPs are remorseless and are said to have no conscience. 4. Paranoid HCPs. They are deeply suspicious and constantly fear betrayal. Because they imagine conspiracies against them, they will launch preemptive attacks against their targets of blame, hoping to harm them first. 5. Histrionic HCPs. They can have very dramatic and exciting personalities. They often tell wild and extreme stories, which are sometimes totally false. Over time, they can be very harmful and emotionally draining to those around them, especially their targets of blame. Not everyone with a personality disorder is a high-conflict person because not all of them attack targets of blame. Many just feel helpless, like a victim in life, and don't blame anyone in particular. Some of them keep to themselves or keep their behavior within acceptable limits, often with therapy and medication. Others are randomly destructive, such as people who walk down the street smashing car windows. Number 2. Potential dates, employers, employees, members of organizations, and even relatives and friends can turn out to have high-conflict personalities. So can you trust the person you're dating, the new employee at work, the investment advisor, your uncle, who wants to sell you insurance, the new handsome minister, the political candidate on TV? You have to decide, often in seconds, based on very little information. Here's the good news. You can trust 80 to 90% of people to be who they say they are, to do what they say they'll do, and to follow most of the social rules that help us live together. Some of them will kill you if you give them the opportunity. Number 3. The I'm superior, you're nothing type. Do you know someone who thinks they're better than everyone else and seems bent on proving it, over and over again, and always at other people's expense? Maybe you were charmed by them at first but now find them acting superior to you or entitled to special treatment. Perhaps you feel they've sabotaged you or blamed you for something in their quest to get ahead or gain prestige and attention. These are all hallmarks of a narcissistic HCP. 3 key characteristics of narcissists are particularly present in those who are high conflict. 1. Sees self as very superior to everyone else, especially those around them. 2. Feels entitled to special treatment so that the rules don't apply to them. 3. Lacks empathy, so can be very insulting and demeaning to others, often in public. You can see how it would be difficult to be in a close relationship with someone who has these traits, because they are always trying to push themselves up by putting others down. An endless high-conflict situation. Narcissistic HCPs don't have authentic relationships. They use relationships for their own gain. They are very good at seduction, of romantic partners, of professional colleagues, of business investors, and of the general public during political or promotional campaigns. It is only much later that people wake up to the HCP's lack of real skills, their unwillingness to work hard, especially on their relationships, their tendency to blame others for everything, and the ease with which they will leave you behind when a better opportunity seems at hand. Narcissists generally act the way they do without conscious intent. They can't help themselves. It's who they are. Narcissistic personality disorder usually starts early in life, and often, but not always, arises out of abusive experiences or an overindulged childhood. It's also important to understand that a narcissist's manipulation is never about you. You're just an easy or available target. In fact, many narcissists don't really notice your existence, even if you live together, work together, or are neighbors or friends, because they are so self-absorbed. They have treated many people equally badly before, and they will treat dozens, or more likely hundreds, more exactly the same way. And when a bigger, better, more important, or more convenient target comes along, the narcissist may suddenly ignore you and chase after him or her. Number 4. The love you, hate you type. Maybe you know someone who's extremely charming, friendly, and reasonable. One minute, then the next, they're screaming and blaming and attacking you. Verbally, financially, publicly, physically, or all of these and more, the speed with which they turn from seeming to love you to hating you is breathtaking. What did I do? You may ask yourself. How can I get out of here? You may be dealing with a borderline HCP. The following 3 key characteristics make them very likely to create high-conflict situations or be HCPs. 1. Fear of abandonment. Constantly clinging and seeking reassurance. 2. Wide mood swings with rapid shifts between friendliness and rage. 3. Splitting. Seeing people as all good or all bad. If they feel you have actually abandoned them, even if you haven't or you just forgot something at the store, they go into a rage. This person may spread rumors about you, sometimes known as distortion campaigns. They may physically assault you, in the worst case killing you in a rage but immediately regretting it. File lawsuits against you, often against their intimate professionals. Call the police against you, such as when a partner wants to get divorced, and accuse you of horrible crimes, child sexual abuse, adult sexual abuse, terrorism, etc., which are not at all true. Of course, these allegations are true in some cases, so an investigation may occur, and it's best if you cooperate, so you don't make it look like you did something wrong if you didn't. Borderline HCPs will try to persuade others to turn against you, and they will. Other friends and associates may just avoid you because they don't want to get involved after seeing how intense the high-conflict person can become. Some borderline HCPs are intense from the start. Angry, intensely afraid, demanding, totally out of proportion to the situation and to the fact that you just met, whatever the setting. But most borderline HCPs start out extremely friendly, charming, energetic, lovable, and possibly seductive. Sometimes, they are particularly angry at somebody else and have a terrible story of being victimized. They may want your help carrying out revenge or punishment for that other person, or draw you in by appearing vulnerable or commiserating with you. They may even get you to take care of them very quickly in the friendship, protecting them from emotional or other alleged abuse from people you haven't met, like bosses, former lovers, family members, old friends. The stories of abuse may be true, partially true, or not true at all. Regardless, this doesn't make it appropriate for them to take over your life with their demands for support. Number 5. The cruel con artist type. One of the most charming and therefore incredibly dangerous high-conflict personality types is the sociopath. While typically thought of as a criminal personality, the majority of sociopaths are not in prison, and you may run into them in everyday life. But their behavior is antisocial, against society's standards of social behavior and laws, and can be extremely harmful. The DSM-5 lists 7 personality traits that are considered in diagnosing antisocial personality disorder. The following key characteristics make them likely to become HCPs: routine violations of social rules, norms, and laws without remorse; deceitfulness, such as lying and conning others to get what they want; drive to dominate others. In general, they are more eager to enter a fight and less willing to back down, even when it means they might get hurt. Thus, they are risk takers and seek excitement when other people may become increasingly cautious. As a result, many antisocial HCPs don't live as long as those who pay more attention to escaping high-risk situations. An antisocial HCP will talk fast and lie to your face so convincingly that you will second-guess your own instincts. That is why many could be called con artists. They will take you into their confidence so that you trust what they say more than what you think and feel yourself. If you have a lot of self-doubt in general, or are going through a particularly vulnerable period in your life, you need to be especially careful that such people do not take advantage of you. Because antisocials often lure people in with feigned vulnerability, people become entangled with them before they realize it. But once the antisocial HCP gets what they want, he or she may disappear in search of their next unsuspecting victim. Antisocial HCPs exist in every occupation, community, and culture, but they are especially attracted to professions where they are able to dominate and manipulate others, such as politics, policing, law, sales, and business. Many of them work for themselves, which allows them to get away with more antisocial behavior. However, there are few obvious signs, as antisocial HCPs invest a lot of energy in selecting their targets and disguising their intentions. They prey on the innocent and vulnerable in particular, people who are inclined to be helpful and trusting. Therefore, rather than just looking for warning signs of bad behavior, it helps to look for warning signs of excessively good behavior. It'll seem too good to be true, and signs of someone needing help who could be manipulating you, like Ted Bundy did. Watch out for people who want you to be excessively helpful to them, without you knowing them well or at all. Of course, none of this means that you shouldn't help a stranger in need, but rather that you should be alert to the possibility of a con or becoming isolated and vulnerable to someone when you are helping them. Number 6. The highly suspicious type. This type of high-conflict personality is also known as a paranoid personality. You might think that people with paranoid traits would avoid conflicts and avoid other people, but a small percentage are also HCPs. The underlying fears for paranoid HCPs are betrayal, deception, or conspiracies against them by those around them or authority figures. They harm others because they think that others, their targets of blame, are trying to harm them. Highly suspicious HCPs expect conspiracies everywhere. They fear that the people at work are whispering about them, trying to block their careers, or otherwise plotting to harm them. They fear their neighbors, the neighbors' children, or the police, or that powerful government agencies will intrude into their lives. If you are in a romantic relationship, they may suspect that you are having affairs, hiding money, or lying to them about something. Many paranoid HCPs feel much more comfortable targeting people on the internet, where they can be anonymous. They'll also often involve other people or the legal system in their conflicts as a powerful way to fight back against their targets of blame. You may not realize someone near you has paranoid personality disorder. Paranoid HCPs often keep their concerns to themselves because they distrust other people in general, whereas other HCPs often reveal themselves with their own actions. You may become aware of a paranoid person because of a gut feeling, hearing a strange story about them, or noticing several warning signs in their behavior that seem to fit a negative pattern. Breaking away from a relationship with a paranoid person must be done very carefully and gently. If possible, do it in steps, unless the situation is immediately dangerous, so as not to trigger a strong backlash. Again, avoid direct criticism as a method of backing off. Don't blame the person and don't blame yourself. Your time commitments may have changed. Other responsibilities have come your way. You're no longer available when you used to see the person. While these may feel like dishonest excuses, it is realistic that your priorities have changed over time. Brutal honesty may work with 80% of people, although the brutal part is usually unnecessary, but it definitely doesn't work with HCPs. HCPs, especially paranoid HCPs, treat unfiltered honesty like a declaration of war. It will bring them back into your life in a very intense way and put you in extreme situations that were avoidable, such as the person stalking you or spreading rumors against you in order to defend themselves. Number 7. The dramatic accusatory type. The final high-conflict personality we'll cover is histrionic personality disorder. This kind of HCP is motivated by a fear of being ignored, which manifests in a drive to be the center of attention, sometimes by making up dramatic stories about their targets of blame and telling the world about them. Originally, this personality disorder was associated with women. The term histrionic is related to hysteria, which Sigmund Freud identified over 100 years ago as a female emotional disorder. But that's been discredited, especially by the large NIH study, which found that this disorder is equally present in both men and women. In fact, the study found that those with histrionic personality disorder were 51% men and 49% women. These HCPs frequently speak in dramatic, all-or-nothing terms. While they are sometimes accurately describing events, many of their stories are gross exaggerations or sometimes not based in fact at all. If you are the target of blame for a histrionic HCP, prepare for public accusations, dramatic stories about how awful you are to them, and a lot of people making judgments about you based on false information. Histrionic HCPs consider their targets of blame the reason they are helpless victims, which justifies them in continuing to be helpless and seek others to take care of them and their problems. They can be very persuasive at getting others to help them. Breaking away from a histrionic HCP may take preparation and persistence. For example, suppose Amy from earlier in this chapter wants to back away somewhat from her mother, Nadine. First, she should speak with a counselor, coach, or consultant to prepare herself and to develop a realistic plan, which may involve several steps over an extended period. Number 8. Once people become emotionally invested in the intense fear, anger, and childlike charm of an HCP, but they usually do not do much individual research into the HCP's situation and adopt the person's opinions and emotions without question. What I call a negative advocate. Negative advocates get emotionally hooked into advocating for an HCP's negative comments, emotions, and behavior, and try to protect the HCP from their evil targets of blame, thereby helping the wrong person in the wrong way. Instead of making things better, this usually makes the situation worse, certainly for the target of blame and often for the HCP as well. Negative advocates are often family members, close friends, or professionals, such as counselors, clergy, lawyers, etc., who think they're just being supportive of the HCP. In many ways, negative advocates are like enablers or codependents of an alcoholic or drug addict. By siding with the HCP and attempting to help with their perceived struggles, they enable the HCP to remain stuck in his or her dysfunctional behavior, emotions, and thoughts by reinforcing them. This reinforcement of their extreme feelings often encourages the HCP to become more aggressive in their negative behavior, which often ends up hurting the HCP in the long run, as more people become involved and eventually turn against the HCP. If you are in a relationship with a potential HCP, you have probably been asked to do favors or fight for them against other friends and family members, even people you like. The thing to remember is that HCPs frequently turn on their negative advocates if they feel they are not advocating strongly enough or not advocating in the right way. All HCPs easily succumb to feelings of betrayal when their negative advocates back away. If an HCP tries to recruit you to their cause, stop them from the start. Try to emphasize that the situation they are in is best handled by themselves or others who know the situation better. Be mildly interested, but don't appear to take a position on their conflicts.